The world watches, hearts heavy, as the Israel-Palestine conflict continues to unravel lives, dreams, and generations. Cities crumble, families are torn apart, and the future feels like it drowns in blood and dust. And yet, in this endless cycle of pain, one timeless question echoes louder than the explosions: how does the human spirit endure? What can give strength when everything around you is designed to break you? This is where we turn not to politicians, not to generals, but to philosophy, Stoicism, the ancient school of thought that taught emperors and slaves alike how to endure suffering and transform despair into power. If you believe the wisdom of the past can shine light on today's darkest tragedies, stay with me, because what you're about to hear may forever change how you see pain, conflict, and resilience. Before we go deeper, I want to ask, do you think philosophy can truly heal modern wounds, or is it too detached from reality? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because your perspective matters. Stoicism begins with one piercing truth: we cannot control the world, but we can control ourselves. In Gaza, in Israel, in refugee camps and military bases, people cannot control rockets or governments, but they can control how they meet despair. Marcus Aurelius, writing in the midst of war and plague, told himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Imagine being surrounded by conflict, where hatred feels inherited, and fear is daily bread. To believe that strength is not stolen by bombs but rests within your own mind, this is revolutionary. It is not passive acceptance. It is not surrender. It is the art of inner freedom when outer freedom is denied. And I want to ask you, if you were living amid chaos, could you still believe that your mind is your fortress? Comment below what you think. But Stoicism does not stop at survival, it demands meaning. Epictetus, born a slave, tortured, and denied dignity, still declared that suffering itself is not evil, but our judgment of it. Think of the mothers who have lost children, fathers who bury sons, children who watch homes collapse. How could any philosophy dare to touch this abyss of pain? Yet Epictetus offers not denial but a sword: even in chains, even in ashes, your worth is untouched. The violence outside cannot dictate the nobility inside. This does not erase grief, it elevates it. Grief becomes testimony, not defeat. When we suffer, we have a choice: collapse into hatred or rise into wisdom. Which path would you choose if the world pushed you to the breaking point? Let me know your answer, because it tells me how deeply you resonate with this truth. The Israel-Palestine conflict is not just bombs and borders, it is identity, history, dignity, and vengeance colliding in endless cycles. Here, Stoicism whispers something radical: release the chains of what you cannot control. Nations cling to land, tribes to wounds, leaders to pride, yet what if individuals reclaimed their own inner sovereignty? Marcus Aurelius did not ask Rome to stop fighting wars, he asked himself to stop fighting within his own heart. Can that wisdom scale? Can personal inner freedom ripple into collective peace? Perhaps. Or perhaps it remains a private salvation. But consider this: if even one soul in a war zone reclaims peace inside, is that not already a form of victory? If the human heart refuses to be conquered, can the war truly win? And here lies the paradox of Stoicism in modern suffering: it does not promise an end to bombs, it promises an end to despair. It does not prevent loss, it prevents the loss from owning you. Ancient philosophy does not deliver peace treaties, it delivers unbreakable spirits. For those who are weary of headlines, tired of shouting matches, and exhausted by propaganda, Stoicism offers a mirror: are you governed by rage or by reason? By fear or by freedom? By wounds or by wisdom? And this is where I invite you to pause and reflect. In your own life, far from battlefields, do you sometimes wage wars in your mind that chain you down? What would it look like if you applied Stoic principles to those battles today? Share in the comments. I want to hear how this philosophy speaks to your struggles. The ancient Stoics believed that human beings suffer not from events themselves, but from the stories we tell about those events. Now imagine the stories echoing through generations in Israel and Palestine, the stories of exile, of occupation, of betrayal, of blood spilled and revenge demanded. Each child grows not only into their own life but into the burden of centuries. The grief is inherited like a surname, the rage like a birthright. Here Stoicism cuts through with almost unbearable clarity. Are we condemned to live inside old stories, or can we reframe them? The event itself is raw, your family killed, your home destroyed. No philosophy can erase that. But the meaning? That is still yours to shape. To tell yourself, this makes me an enemy forever, is one path. To tell yourself, this suffering reveals my strength, is another. Which story would you choose if you were born into the ruins? Would you dare to write a new one, or would you cling to the old one as identity? Epictetus reminds us, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This does not trivialize pain, it weaponizes it. When someone loses everything, the only thing left is their reaction. This is why some men in prison become philosophers, and some emperors remain slaves to their own anger. Picture a young boy who has seen his home demolished. He could swear vengeance, or he could swear resilience. The external world pushes him toward one path, but his inner power allows another. Imagine if even a fraction of those caught in this conflict chose to respond not with hatred but with inner discipline. It would not end the war, but it would end the war inside them. And every inner war ended is one less soldier in the army of vengeance. I want to hear from you. Do you believe personal transformation can ripple into collective peace, or is that wishful thinking? Comment what you feel in your heart. The Stoics also warned against the poison of anger. Seneca wrote, "Anger is short madness." In the Israel-Palestine conflict, anger is not short, it is inherited, cultivated, weaponized, and celebrated as loyalty. Yet Seneca would call it madness still. Anger clouds judgment, blinds compassion, and multiplies destruction. The Stoic path is not about becoming numb, but about replacing rage with reason. Imagine a leader, pressured by grief and rage, choosing to retaliate with overwhelming force. Thousands suffer. The cycle continues. Now imagine that same leader practicing Stoicism, pausing, asking, is this within my control? Does this reaction serve virtue, or does it serve chaos? That single pause could save countless lives. If the ancient philosophers were here today, they would not side with one flag or the other, they would side with the virtue that outlives flags. And I ask you, when you're provoked in your own life, do you react from anger or from wisdom? Be honest in the comments, I want to know your answer. But Stoicism is not only about avoiding anger, it is about cultivating justice. Marcus Aurelius, a man who commanded armies, wrote endlessly about treating even enemies with dignity. He reminded himself daily, they act out of ignorance, not malice. Do not hate them. Can this mindset survive in a war zone? And if leaders will not, perhaps individuals can. Imagine a soldier refusing to see the other side as monsters, but as human beings caught in the same web of fate. That refusal, though small, is revolutionary. The conflict thrives on dehumanization, Stoicism restores humanity. And here's my question to you, in your life, have you ever turned an enemy into a teacher? Have you ever looked at someone who wronged you and said, your actions reveal my own path to virtue? If so, share your story below, it may inspire someone who is still chained by anger. The Stoic view of death also carries immense power here. For the Stoics, death was not tragedy, it was nature. Seneca said, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. To those in Gaza or Tel Aviv, in refugee camps or military checkpoints, death is not abstract, it is near. Stoicism teaches, fear not death, but dishonor. Fear not the end, but a wasted life. This is why prisoners of war have sung, why mothers in mourning have still stood tall, because though death takes the body, virtue remains untouchable. In this way, Stoicism transforms even death from terror into teacher. Imagine the resilience that emerges when fear of death no longer governs you. Imagine the freedom. If you knew death was not to be feared, how differently would you live today? Comment below with the answer, because this reflection may just shift how you see your own life. And so we see the paradox sharpen: Stoicism does not end wars, but it ends the tyranny of wars over the soul. And if even a single mind can claim freedom in the midst of suffering, then humanity is not lost. This is why Stoicism matters today, not as dusty words in books, but as fire in the veins of the suffering. And this is why I ask you, in your darkest moments, what thought has carried you through? Share it in the comments. It may be the Stoic wisdom someone else desperately needs right now. Stoicism teaches us that suffering is universal, but so is the capacity for endurance. The Israel-Palestine conflict is an extreme mirror of this truth. Devastation and courage exist side by side, hatred and hope dance together, despair and resilience coexist in the same streets. Ancient philosophy does not ask us to deny this duality, it asks us to navigate it with clarity and honor. To see that while the world may rage, while history may wound, while the news may bleed into our consciousness, the mind remains a sanctuary. Even in bombed-out neighborhoods, even in refugee tents, even in the hearts of those who grieve endlessly, Stoicism whispers, you are not the events that happen to you. You are the choice you make in response. And now, I challenge you to ask yourself, what choice will you make when life brings you chaos? Will you be swept away by rage, or will you anchor yourself in wisdom? Share your thoughts below. Let's create a conversation about strength in suffering. The final lesson Stoicism offers to the modern conflict is the cultivation of empathy without surrender. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself that others act from their perception of the world, often flawed, often limited. In the context of war, this perspective becomes a lifeline. Soldiers, civilians, leaders, they all act from fear, grief, pride, and trauma. To respond with hatred is to become enslaved to the same cycles of suffering. To respond with understanding is to reclaim sovereignty over the soul. This is not naive pacifism, it is strategic. Imagine if every human being in the conflict paused to recognize the suffering of the other side as mirror to their own. Would the bombs stop immediately? Perhaps not. But the chains of inherited hatred would begin to loosen, one mind at a time. And here is my question to you, can empathy be revolutionary in a world that celebrates vengeance? Comment your answer, because your insight matters. Even in a landscape dominated by violence, the Stoic approach transforms suffering into purpose. Each act of patience becomes a protest against despair. Each decision to act with virtue, even when surrounded by cruelty, becomes a small but real victory. The mothers, fathers, and children who survive daily terror become the unwitting Stoics of our era, whether they read Marcus Aurelius or not. They endure because they must, but in their endurance, they illuminate the timeless lesson: the external world is fragile, but the inner life is indestructible. And in this lies the final truth of Stoicism applied to the Israel-Palestine conflict: the power to endure, to rise, and to shape meaning is available to every human being, regardless of circumstance. I want to hear from you, who in your life embodies this resilience? Comment below and honor them. As we close, remember this: Stoicism does not erase suffering, it sharpens the soul. It does not promise a world without war, but it promises a mind unshaken by it. In Gaza and Tel Aviv, in refugee camps, in homes that tremble under fear, the Stoic path offers a radical gift: the realization that while you cannot stop all tragedy, you can govern your response. You can cultivate courage, wisdom, and compassion. You can live with honor in a world that often lacks it. And in doing so, you may become the spark that inspires others to do the same. So, as we leave this reflection, I ask you, how will you apply Stoic wisdom in your own life? How will you turn suffering into strength, and chaos into clarity? Comment below with your answer, and if this exploration of Stoicism and modern suffering resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, because wisdom shared is power multiplied.